See the way ISIS was created in the vacuum left by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama out of Iraq. Obama took us out with Hillary Clinton, created this incredible vacuum. ISIS was formed. She created ISIS, really. Came out of the vacuum. She and Obama created it through the vacuum. Take a look at Iraq. She gave us ISIS because her and Obama created this huge vacuum. And a small group came out of that huge vacuum because we should have never been in Iraq, but once we were there, we should have never got out the way they wanted to get out.
Doesn't this, Matt, just create a new vacuum?
Well, I think Republicans, that's why they're so critical, is that they view it as using political timelines to dictate military strategy. That was always the one thing when we talked about the NRCC or other places. We could usually hang our hat in the fact that people approved of what we were doing to defeat ISIS, defeat terrorism overseas. And I think what we're seeing here is Republicans kind of being critical because they viewed what happened during the Obama years happening now.
And so, Matt, I mean, what about Joe's point that President Trump did this seemingly so abruptly, catching the Pentagon unawares, that it was to change the news cycle?
Well, I think, as you mentioned before, having troops come home before Christmas is always a nice visual and always a nice news story.
But why didn't he alert the Pentagon if that was their thinking?
Again, but whether or not it's done in the right way, consulting Congress, consulting the allies, that remains to be seen. And I think that is what a lot of the reason the Republican senators have a problem with this right now.
Well, we've also got shutdown politics happening overnight, and we're hearing, Senator Cornyn seems very confident that this is all going to go the president's way and the Congress's way. The president will sign it. Joe, do we have any evidence at this point that the president's actually going to follow through on this? Does he have any other options?
Yeah, I think it's likely he'll sign it, but there's a wild card here, which is Trump, and he's always a wild card. And I think, if you look at the political problems that Syria and the shutdown present, Syria has gotten a lot of the attention, but don't forget the shutdown. The base hates the fact that he's caved on no border wall. You had Ann Coulter calling him gutless yesterday. You had Mark Meadows, the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, saying, our base is enraged, we won't put up with it. Trump is very susceptible to whatever the last thing he heard is. So I don't think it's out of the question that he'll sign it. There's two things that this whole fight demonstrates, though, that he's lost leverage with Congress. He was not able to, like he was in his first year, to go and lean on them. They were paying no attention to him over the last time. The second is we are beginning for the first time to see some cracks in Republican support. Over in the Senate, it's over Syria. They're outraged. My guess is they'll calm down. Over in the House, though, I'm not so sure, though. This border wall was a huge deal for them. They spent years talking about it, and to have Trump walk away from it, it may be the beginning of this cracks. And if that is the case, I'm not saying that it will be, if it is the case, it is an entirely different dynamic, which is way, way bigger than the Democrats taking over the House.
Because we know that the president is susceptible to whatever the last person in the room has told him. I am closely monitoring Fox and Friends this morning. I have it here on my TV that I keep down here because, for real, I'm not joking, if Fox says, don't sign that CR,
exactly.
If Fox says, bad idea, you're going to lose the base, I think that he might be convinced not to sign it.
Just as the founders intended, by the way.
And that goes to the problem that we have with our government right now. We don't know that. The world didn't know as of this time yesterday that we were pulling out of Syria. The government doesn't know at this time this morning whether it's going to be open tomorrow.
Can we add to that? This is, I mean, these are human beings we're talking about as well. So we're talking about policy, we're talking about strategy and funding, but, the dichotomy here where we're talking about the military and bringing them home for Christmas, which, by the way, isn't going to happen before Christmas.
Right.
It's 5 days from now. They're not going to redeploy these forces. It's a talking point. But think about the government employees. And I know that, there aren't many, and, I would say, knowing a lot of Republicans, they don't sit at home at night thinking, okay, I wonder what the bureaucrats are thinking today. But these are people going into the holidays that don't know if they're going to be able to go to work the next day.
Or get paid.
Or get paid. And so we can't lose sight of this isn't just money. We're talking about human beings.
Matt, you talked to the folks in the White House. Is there going to be a shutdown or not?
Well, I think we're far from out of the woods yet. I mean, obviously the Senate approved it. The House is still a wild card. As you said before, Joe, the Freedom Caucus was getting up there last night telling President Trump, don't cave in the border wall.
And he is susceptible to those things. They could apply pressure.
And again, I think the most powerful person right now is whoever's kind of controlling the remote control at the White House. Is it going to be, could he walk away from this like he almost did before? We saw it where it passed both houses of Congress, and he got up there and said, I'll do it this one time, but I won't do it again. So we'll see. Far from out of the woods. Far.
I mean, he did say he wasn't going to sign this kind of bill again. These are your guys in the Freedom Caucus. If the president indicates he's signed it, do you think they will support it in the House, or do you think they may try to vote against it?
I think their leverage is rapidly decreasing because the Freedom Caucus has very little leverage in a House minority. So they didn't get it done, as you said, with 2 years in the majority. They're certainly not going to get it done with Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. Everyone becomes the Freedom Caucus essentially in the House minority for Republicans. So they lose their leverage very quickly when we go from majority to minority.
Interesting.
Okay, fascinating day. We will see what happens as the hours unfold. Thank you very much, panel. The man poised to oversee the Mueller probe had harsh words, we now know, for